And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday, July 30th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, with that being said, let's get into what we are going to discuss today. So, we're going to start off the show, talk about some recent headlines around training camp, talk about some things there that I will get into here at the start of the show. Then we'll talk about a couple of things regarding the Cowboys. So, I know I did bring up how Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb did receive offers. So we'll get into some of that, as well as Sam Williams as well, someone that was going to be part of the rotation on the defensive line, tearing his ACL for the Cowboys. So I wanted to get into that, how that impacts them going forward. Then in the third part of the show, we will continue our running back rankings. Today I will be doing the NFC West, which in terms of running backs, it's loaded. So this might be one of the best divisions when it comes to running backs. So I'll go over that as well. I'll talk about in the fourth part of the show. We'll get into talking about Cooper Kupp. Talking about being a mentor, as well as just his expectations going into the 2024 season. And then the final part of the show, we'll talk about Caleb Williams and whether or not he should play in the Hall of Fame game on Thursday, which he had some things to say about that, so I wanted to get into it. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about, just some things going on in training camp. So Jamar Chase is still absent from practice. Regarding the Bengals, Jamar Chase is still absent from practice, and this has likely to do with the contract stuff. And along with him, Trey Hendrickson is also absent from practice. Last year, coming off a season, a career high in sacks, 17 and a half, and he's someone that requested a trade earlier in the offseason, but he later backtracked. So a couple of key players on the Bengals that, the Bengals need. Jamar Chase is a big part of what the Bengals do on offense, and he's most likely going to get that big contract. The Bengals, I think, probably waiting to give him that contract, but they're definitely going to give him that contract. It's going to be T. Higgins that's going to end up getting a bigger contract elsewhere. But, that's your number one receiver right there. And then you got Trey Hendrickson on the defensive side of the ball. People have their concerns with the Bengals defense, but Trey Hendrickson is one of those players that is a difference maker on that side of the ball. So both of these guys being absent because of similar situations, you're hoping that they get resolved because they're going to be key players for this upcoming season. For the Patriots, Matthew Judon was making some news yesterday. There was a video of him and Gerard Mayo kind of having a discussion off to the side. Matthew Judon is not practicing, and he's a key guy on the Patriots' defensive side of the ball. And I don't know what was said, but apparently things got heated. But he's a guy that the Patriots, I think value, and they want to get a deal done with him. But right now it's just not happening. And then he ended up leaving practice. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But that's another player looking for a contract. And some news regarding Nick Chubb. So he's continuing to rehab from his knee injury, but it's not a guarantee that he's going to be ready for the season opener. When the Browns, they take on, I'm blanking on who the Browns take on in week 1. I'm going to look quickly. But you know what? Nick Chubb, take all the time you need. Oh, that's right, the Cowboys, of course, who we'll be talking about in the second part of the show. When Tom Brady makes his official broadcasting debut with Kevin Burkhardt. So yeah, not a guarantee that Chubb starts, but like I said, I think they really want to take it slow with Nick Chubb, ease him back into it because they don't want to risk anything. So and that was a pretty significant knee injury that he suffered last year. So they don't want anything. They don't want any setbacks. And I did bring this up yesterday towards the end of the show. Taylor Decker of the Lions on the offensive line. He signed a 3-year, $60 million extension with $32 million guaranteed. The longest tenured player on the team. I was not aware of that. 112 career starts. And he was a part of that play against the Cowboys where he reported eligible. And, the Lions, they went ahead in the game, but the refs called it back. And they ended up losing that game. But these two teams will play each other this year, which I'm looking forward to that, to see if the Lions can get their revenge there. So that another contract extension. And then some news on the injury front. Samson Ebukam of the Colts out for the season with a torn Achilles, and he's coming off of a career best 9.5 sacks. So that's a blow to the Colts defense. It's just injuries, man. They're already starting, and we'll talk about another injury with the Cowboys, but it's just and it's a huge blow for the Colts defense. And the Colts are a team that, some people think could really do something this year. And I think they're going to be a good team with, Anthony Richardson back for a full season. And, you got Jonathan Taylor under that new deal and Michael Pittman under a new deal. You got these young receivers, and the defensive side of the ball, Colts defense is underrated. Doesn't really get talked about a lot. But, yeah, that's a blow to the defensive side of the ball for the Colts. And, wishing him a speedy recovery. But it's just injuries. They really just, that's what ruins the season. And we're getting closer, but it's just injuries are going to happen. And Ebukam is one of the latest in that, which is unfortunate. So then another team, talking about the Texans, so Danico Autry, who they brought in over from the Titans, so he's going to be suspended for 6 games for violating the NFL's PED policy. Now, he was not intending on, taking a banned substance, but that just ended up happening, so he's going to be out for 6 games. Like I said, free agent acquisition from Tennessee. The Texans did make a lot of moves this offseason, some on the defensive side of the ball. They brought him in as well as getting Danielle Hunter over from the Vikings. So, so he's going to miss, some games. And then Malik Neighbors has been looking impressive in training camp so far, as well as Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, I don't think it's really that big of a surprise. These were the top receivers, along with Rome Odunze. Those are the top receivers in the draft, so it's really no surprise that they are, balling out. And Brian Dable is going to be taking over play calling duties for the Giants. They still got Mike Kafka as the offensive coordinator, but Dable is going to be calling the plays. And there's an emphasis on creating more explosive plays, which is something the Giants have lacked for many years, and they're trying to bring those back. And, I've seen some plays, on social media, and they, you got to be a little encouraged, but got to see how it actually plays out once, games are being played. And like I said, I will be there week 1 against the Vikings, and, I'm going to see them in those uniforms. So hopefully, we see some deep passes to Neighbors, and Jalen Hyatt, and Wan'Dale Robinson is running all over the place. There's some things to be excited about with the Giants. Also, another thing, Brian Burns dealing with a minor foot injury. I saw that. So, again, it's minor, but, again, just having to see someone getting injured, I hate injuries. Who doesn't hate injuries? Also, with the other New York team, Aaron Rodgers was frustrated in practice recently. A sloppy practice. He criticized the offense's performance after a shaky practice session. Listen, now that Rodgers is healthy, it's you're going to see that. Um, Veteran guy. You know, if something doesn't look right, something doesn't go well, yeah. Rodgers going to show you how it's done, and that's why it's different when you don't have Zach Wilson, a young guy, playing the quarterback position. Now you got a guy that's been there and done that a million times over the course of his career. So and this is a big year for the Jets. So they want to be you know they want to be in sync by the time the season starts. Now, I know there's definitely people out there that are going to say, well, if he would have went to mandatory minicamp, maybe that practice wouldn't have been sloppy. But that's just something very easy to say. I mean, it's going to happen. How many times have you seen Tom Brady get frustrated over something, or Peyton Manning in a game getting frustrated? You know, it's not just Rodgers. This happens all the time with guys. So yeah, he's holding people accountable. But, then you'll have people that'll say, well, the Jets got to hold him accountable for things. So it's gonna be a constant back and forth. But yeah, that's just some news from several different teams. Guys are looking for new contracts. You got guys trying to come back from injury. Guys getting hurt. It's just we're getting closer. We just got to hold out a little bit longer. But we do have a game this week, like I said, and I'm really looking forward to that. So let me know what you guys think, though, about some of the things that I discussed. Like I said, covered several different teams. So just wanted to talk about that with the training camp being in full swing. So we're going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, we'll discuss the Cowboys. We'll talk about some things regarding them, CeeDee Lamb, as well as an injury to the defensive line that I will talk about as well. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.